The biggest issue across both of our major sporting codes, the NRL and the AFL this week, is concussion protocols and the duty of care for sporting organisations that are full contact sports. We will begin with the NRL, Alana. This week they announced the mandatory 11-day stand-down period for Category 1 concussions. You've played contact sport your entire life. Is it important to protect players from themselves, or is the league going soft?
No, I don't think we're going soft. I think we're following the protocols, probably just reacting a little bit late, in my opinion, to what is happening. So from where I stand, I think the next step, and certainly the 11-day stand down as well, but the next step will be controversial. Because if you look at the big picture, we don't want, as players, we don't want the game to change, and as punters watching, we don't want the game to change. But at the end of the day, it's very dangerous, and we're seeing the devastating effects of those head knocks. So how I sort of see it is how, rather than reacting to what's happening, now that we've got this information, why can't we be proactive with protection? Why can't we mandate it for all junior footy players to wear headgear? Is there a way that we can sort of bring it into the professional game as well? Because we don't want the game of footy to change. We want to be out there. We want to be playing rugby league. It's a contact sport. It's what we love. There's nothing better than being out there and putting on a big hit, copping one, both sides of the ball. It's so important. But the way that the game's being played at a professional level, it's faster. Players are getting stronger. And as a result, we're seeing concussions so often. So I don't know, Gus, you might have more information than I do, but I don't know too much from the NRL's point of view of how much money and research they're actually putting in to protecting these players. Some form of headgear. I don't think the headgear at the moment is appropriate. Like, I've tried it myself, and it gets in the way of your vision. How much does it help? I'm not entirely sure. But if you go on the other side and different sports, you look at a boxer, for instance, when they're sparring and they're preparing for a fight, they've got that head protection on there. So it has to help and protect to a degree. So why can't we get some better technology, figure out how we can help these players, make it mandatory so everyone's got to face the same issues from the get-go, so that that's the only issue that everyone sort of has to cop, rather than change our game. The 11-day stand down and those sort of protocols, I think they're great, but that's after the fact.
Yeah, they're moving in the right direction, aren't they?
They have to.
And certainly in cricket, that's exactly what happened in terms of the helmets. So when I grew up, was playing cricket, the odd person had a helmet. It was actually quite exciting. Everyone sort of borrowed it just to see what the players were using, you know, on telly. But now you go, and if you're a wicketkeeper standing up to the stumps, you wear a helmet. If you're a batsman, both ends wear a helmet. So it becomes something that you're used to at such a young age. So I think that's a really good start. But you're right, you just can't go down to your local Kmart and buy it off the shelf. It should be like a mouth guard. It should be moulded to that person's head so it sits there perfectly and it doesn't become a distraction. That's a really good start. And if they're not putting money into it, Ferg, then they should be. Because it's the biggest thing, Boz, isn't it? In terms of parents looking at their kids and what sports they want to play. You want your kid to be safe, to get fit, to be mentally fit, physically fit. You don't want them in that gun all the time.
No, and you're reading stories. I mean, I read one about Mark Carroll, Spud, who I'm a friend of, the other day, about some of the feelings that he had after he was diagnosed with CTE, and it's a huge issue. And I would just say to Alana, look, and this is from the outside point of view.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
You know, I don't go to watch rugby league to see the big hits, to be honest. I know it's been an integral part of the game, you probably will say, for quite some time, but I want to see wonderful attacking football. If you had to tweak it, if they turn around and said, OK, you can't hit in a certain way, maybe you can't hit, I know you have to hit below the legs, or else the game dies, which one do you take? Well, or as they say, well, we're making it illegal to play.
Well, I think technically there have been changes in the way that you can approach tackles in both codes, and we'll speak about AFL soon. I think that's also important. The technical side of the game is important, but at the end of the day, like, players are signing up to play contact sport. And I, for one, even now knowing what can happen, I grew up playing from when I was 4 all the way through. If I could be out on the footy field now, still knowing everything, and I've had head concussions and head knocks, I would still be out there doing it. And it's the same as any player that plays and loves the game. They're going to be out there. If it happens on the field, if I was knocked out on the field and I wasn't forced to leave the field, if it wasn't a protocol for me to have to leave and I could get up and keep going, every single day of the week I'd do that. So that protocols have to be brought in, but we need to protect our players from the grassroots all the way through.
Yeah, and just a little before we move on, just that even in our sport, they're considering banning heading. There's a parliamentary inquiry as we speak in Britain into the terms of the effects of heading the ball, because it's had a massive effect on past players and even current ones. So there you go.